Boom. All right, guys. Welcome if you're just tuning in to the recording or just joined us on the call. My name is Christian Moore, and I am with Yell Studios and the Superhero Training Center, and I am joined with Cara Reid, who is our fantastic voice and dialect coach, who's going to run us through some amazing voice exercises as well as some building characters out through dialect to kind of help you book some bigger roles. We have some amazing classes coming up and free webinars coming up as well. And you can find all of those at superherotrainingcenter.com/webinars. And you can see me darting my eyes over to make sure that I've got all my, my I's dotted and my T's crossed on that as well. And I'm going to do a share screen. Oh, maybe I am. 2 seconds. Well, we'll get that later if it's not popping up just yet. But anyway, fantastic. Well, that is my plug. All those classes and webinars are coming up. You can find, oh, here they go. Nice. This is what I wanted. Perfect. So this is the webinar that you guys are currently tuned into, but we also have using clowning for film and TV coming up, which is with Marcio Ballas. He's a phenomenally trained clown. He trained at the Jacques Lecoq program in Paris, which is one of the most exclusive programs in the world. We also have some awesome classes coming up, including one with Cara, which you can sign up for, which is Character Dialects with Cara Reid. It's going to be a 4-week class where you can work on your vocal training and work on building those characters and dialects out to help you book better roles. We also have a class that just started today called Creating a Pitch Packet with Mad TV. Frank was a writer for Mad TV for quite a while. Phenomenal writer, phenomenal guy. And that starts today, but if you want to get into it, we can give you a recording of the first class and get you signed up later this week. All right, I'm going to hand over the reins, stop this share, and Cara, it is your show.
Great. Hi, everybody. Hi, I would say, how are you? And so I can't hear you. So what I wanted to do, just to go over the shape of this evening is that we're just going to, I'm going to blab for a little bit about myself, just to let you know who I am and my training and what I do. And then we're going to go through some vocal exercises. So basically some warm-ups and talk a little bit about vocal health. Then we're going to do like a rush through a British dialect and basically just tell you how to start learning a dialect. It's not necessarily going to be so much about the British, but it's going to be a lot about how do you learn a dialect. And then at the end, I'm going to tie that in with the similarities between building a dialect and building a character. And then we're just going to have a short little session for Q&A, and it's for any questions about whatever we went through or some other things that I've done or some question that you have in the future about auditions or things that you've done in the past that you're interested in, how that can be modified. So great. Yeah, Christian? Great. Cool. Okay. Great. Okay. So, like Christian said, my name is Cara Reid, and I am a voice and dialect coach and actor in Atlanta. And sorry, my phone's going off, so I'm going to turn it off. And I am originally from Western North Carolina, and I've kind of lived all over. I was North Carolina, New York, Texas, Louisiana, and now I'm in Atlanta, back in the Southeast. And I've worked in all of those places as an actor and as a coach. I went to UNC Greensboro. I got my BFA, and then a few years ago, I graduated with my MFA in acting and a specialization in voice and speech from Louisiana State University. So since I have been here, I have had the wonderful privilege to work with the several theaters in town, with the Alliance Theater, with Theatrical Outfit, Horizon, and I have been the dialect coach on The Outsider, a film called Trial by Fire, shoot, what else? There's a lot of television shows. The Watchmen, and several things that are on my resume that you can see. But anyways, it's been really wonderful, and a lot of my work thus far here in Atlanta has been working with British actors and modifying that to standard American or to just a general Southern accent. But other than that, like at City Springs Theater, I coached Billy Elliot, and at Theatrical Outfit, I coached the Pittman Painters, and both of those are Geordie dialects, which is Newcastle. And so I have a pretty broad range of being a teacher and being a dialect coach on film, television, commercial, whatever it be, as well as I've been acting for, I don't know, like 20 years. So I'm very familiar with the business, which is really nice. So to be able to be on the front end, in front of the camera, and also behind it, to be able to work with producers and directors, and just to get that extra feel for it. One of the reasons that I wanted to work with Yale for this specific class is when I realized when I'm teaching dialects, it is so similar to teaching building a character. Both of they're so interwoven in each other, even to the minute parts of, you know, the objective and why you say things at a certain time, to the biggest part of it, which has to do with, you know, where are you from and who are you speaking to. So a lot of these things that seem really obvious, that perhaps we're not really thinking about anymore. We're like, oh, well, I'm trying to do this to this person, and then we just leave it at that. And it's not just about the objective, it's not just about the tactic, but it really is about creating the world. And I would say that a lot of us know that if you're watching something and the accent is terrible, then you immediately come out of it. So you're not really thinking about the story anymore. You're thinking about the actor, you're thinking about their training, you're thinking like, oh, who hired them, so forth and so forth. So you're not necessarily invested in the story anymore, which to me, that's, as we all know as actors, that's the whole point of it, is to really focus on authentic storytelling. And to be able to do that, it's to be able to create the world as fully and as deeply and as meaningfully as we possibly can. So let's just start at first. I am a huge advocate for warming up. So it's not just about dialects. I teach voice. I work a lot on the elements of voice, which are vocal support and diction, and where you resonate from, and really releasing tension from your whole body, because whatever you're carrying around in your body is also going to affect your voice no matter what. So I really want to start now with what I'm going to do. I'm going to rearrange myself. So if you like, feel free to go ahead and rearrange yourself if you're going to stand up as well. Feel free to do that. Otherwise, if you want to just sit and take it all in, cool, have at it. But give me just a second and I'm going to rearrange. You live there. You live here. You live here. All right. That's okay. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is we're just going to take a second, and I'm going to put my hand right here. So here's my belly button right here. So if you put your fingers so if you have 3 fingers right below your belly button, this band of muscle right here is called your transversus abdominis, and it's one of the strongest muscles in your body. So a lot of people focus, when they focus on vocal support, they focus on their diaphragm, right? So your diaphragm is right here. It's a bowl shape. You breathe in, you breathe out. So it does this. So that's really, most people focus on their diaphragm. I like to focus on your transversus. So basically what's happening is that it's just a lower band. It's kind of right along like your pelvis bone. So it's just a much deeper breath. Doctors have really they've really led us in the wrong direction when they put the stethoscope on your back and they say breathe in. So what we do is we go right, which is great because they're listening to our lungs. But what that has us do is intentionally start to take those survival breaths, and those survival breaths are this, which means when we're scared or we're really anxious, that's where the breath comes from, and you're not really able to ground yourself because this is all just bone right here. There's nothing that's really supporting this. What really supporting is this muscle right here. This is that really good band of muscle to where you feel like, that's when you work out a lot, or if you feel, anytime you feel, if your body's tremoring from something, or you go on a run and you do that big motion of, that you have to really catch your breath. Usually what you're doing is that you're breathing as deeply as you can. And what that does is that really grounds you. And not only are you able to catch your breath a lot quicker, but it's also able to go to your oxygen to your brain a lot sooner too. So what that's doing is that it's allowing you to make better and more cohesive decisions. So instead of that fight or flee, it's the take a deep breath. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Take a deep breath. Okay, now I can make the decision. And if you still want to fight or flee, great, but you've at least you've at least been able to think it through a little bit. That's also a really great on camera or on stage tool. If you forget your lines, it's taking the deep breath and going and working through the breath, and all of a sudden you've caught it and you go, so anyways, blah, 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 blah. So you're actually discovering it in the moment, and you're not just sitting there with looking like a deer in headlights, like, oh, I've clearly forgotten my line. No problem. So what I want to focus on is, I want you first just to go ahead and put your hand about 3 fingers right below your belly button. I'm going to keep this here for a second, just so you can see what's happening here. So I'm going to turn to the side so you can see as if I'm breathing into my hand. So my hand is expanding. And I want you just to take 5 deep breaths. If you're standing up, make sure that your knees are unlocked. And also that your shoulders don't raise. So I'm still breathing. So if it goes up a little bit, but it's not this action, you can feel it, right? It's just here, down into your transversus. Great. So I want you to do that one more time, but I want you to release some sound. And then you can go ahead and drop that on your hand. Okay. So again, just another warm up. I do this with anyone and everyone that I work with. One of my clients was 80. I want you to take your hands. So just a reminder that our breath and our body and our voice are all connected. So you're just going to take your wrists and you're just going to 3 in, 3 out. Just remember everything's connected. We warm everybody up. So then you're going to go in to your elbows, 3 and 3 out the other way. And then you're gonna go full arm. I'm gonna try not to punch you or my backdrop, 3 and 3 out. So it's just full arm the other way. This is gonna come tumbling down on me. And then the next thing is that you're just gonna take your, you're gonna take the same thing with your ankles. So here we are, you're gonna do this. You're not gonna be able to see this. Here we go. 3 in, 3 out. The other way, great. And then up into your knee. Again, this is only if it feels comfortable for you. And then into your hip. Same here. If you have to hold on to something, great, me too. I am popping all over the place. I'm gonna bring you back up. So we're gonna do the other leg. So focus on your ankle and the other foot, then the other way, and then you're gonna go up into your knee, the other way, and then up into your hip. And the other way. So that's really just a reminder that we're warming up our entire bodies. We're warming up that. We're warming up our breath so it gets going. So we can really focus on speaking on our breath. So again, just take you're gonna go ear to shoulder, and you're gonna take that arm and you're going to place it over top of it, over top of your ear, and just give a little gentle pull. You're going to raise the opposite arm so you feel a little bit of that stretch, and go ahead and flex your hand. Gives you a little bit more of a stretch. Now you can let that go, roll it down and over to the other side, ear to shoulder. Make sure your knees are unlocked and that you're breathing. With that arm, just go ahead and give yourself a gentle pull. And then lift that opposite arm and go ahead. Great. And extend. Great. So you're just going to drop that. And shake it out, shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. So you're going to shake out your hands. You're going to shake out your feet. Great. So you're going to start gurning around. Let me tell you what gurning is. Gurning is basically making lots of funny faces. So what you're doing is you're really working the musculature of your face, of your articulators, right? So you're just gonna do this, but you're also gonna, I wanna invite you to make some sound. So, you're gonna take the top of your teeth across the bottom or your tongue across the top of your teeth and then across the bottom. Another way. Something that I like to this is the scientific term. It's called big face, little face. I don't know if you've heard of it. Big face is
very scientific.
Great. Big face is so you're really stretching everything out. Little face, stretch up, big face, little face, You're gonna put your head down and you're gonna blow through your lips. All right, give yourself a little massage on your jaw. What we don't realize is that we hold so much tension in our jaw, and that also really affects, there's tension in our jaw and then there's tension in our tongue. So what we don't realize is how much that affects the way that we speak, how that affects our idiolects. And what our idiolects are is basically anything and everything that has influenced your speaking voice up until this point. So that's another reason that I like to talk about character building. So it is, where are you from? How do the people that, in terms of regionalism, how do they speak? It also has to do with your education. Sometimes it has to do with money. Sometimes it has to do with basically anything that can influence your environment. So our idiolects, a lot of times it also has to do with how much tension do we hold in our tongue? How much tension do we hold in our jaw? I will go back and say, I am a good Western North Carolina girl. So for the longest time, I would open my mouth and it would just sound like banjos. So it has taken me a really long time to be able to really tune in and have my standard American right on. It has become second nature now, that when I need it to teach, when I need it to be a human, until I go back to Western North Carolina and I see my parents and it all just comes screaming back to me. But it's a really wonderful way to say, oh, okay, my vocal posture is different, which is another thing, which is another thing that we'll talk about when we get into dialects. So go ahead and think about that. Release your jaw. I want you to stick your tongue out at me and then stick it back. And now go ahead and move your jaw around. Okay, great. All right. So now I want, what we're going to do is we're just going to work on some range exercises. So we're just going to do a like a crescendo, kind of like a siren. So it's going to go, we're going to use an E, and it's going to go E. And just think about, after you do that, think about what that feels like in your mouth. Okay, you don't have to answer any questions, but just think about what that is. So we're going to just start on an E. Ready? E. So with range, what's happening is that E, what that is that my soft palate is lifting. So you have your soft palate in the very back of your mouth, right? You got your teeth. You have what's called your alveolar ridge, which is basically that little thing that connects your teeth to your hard palate, right? So then you have your post-alveolar ridge, and then you have your hard palate. You can literally take your tongue and you can feel it. Go all the way back to your soft palate. Try not to swallow your tongue. It'll probably itch now. But but just so you know, again, when we go in to do British, I'm going to talk a lot about your soft palate. So your soft palate will lift. Everybody go ahead and yawn. Yeah, great. So really, when you yawn, your soft palate lifts and you have all of this space in your mouth. So a lot of times with standard American, we speak from the very middle, like proper standard American. I hate that term, but let's talk about a general right now. Is we speak from the very middle of our mouths, and we really drop our jaw as well. And I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so let's go back and do one more. Let's do it on ah. So we're gonna go from the bottom to the top to the bottom, and go ah. And if you need it, you can always use your finger to do it. Here we go. Physical cues are great for me if you're good with imagery. Okay, another thing, and I'm just racing through this. So if you need to turn your camera on and be like, slow down, please do that, or at least write it down, and we'll come back to it in Q&A. So a range exercise that I love, this is from Patsy Rodenberg. Patsy is kind of my voice guru. She is a world-renowned voice teacher and director from that works at the Guildhall School of Music in the UK. And she has coached everyone, and she has 4 or 5 books out that she talks about presence. She's like a savant on Shakespeare, just everything. So one of Patsy's exercises on range is you go to the very top of your range, and then you go to the bottom of your range. So for me, the reason I love this is I also do a lot of voiceover, and I teach a lot of character voices or extreme voices. And what I want to do is I want to know, just like with my body, how much room do I have to work with? Let's say I'm 5'11", let's say I'm 5'3". My resume says 5'4", but let's say I'm 5'3". But that means I have all of this space, this physical space to work with. So if I were to put my arms out, you would think, people talk about their power poses, so they put their arms out, and this is all of the space that you take up. So it's not only just your physical presence, but it's your vocal presence. So you think about all of that space, but then with the range of your voice, you can go from the very top, and we're going to work on a sustainable sound, not on a sound that is not sustainable. You want to be able to do these sounds for 8 shows a week. You want to be able to do them, have your voice 16 hours on set, 8 hours in the booth, whatever that means. So we're always working with a sustainable sound. So I'm going to find the very highest I can go. Cool. That's not sustainable. Sustainable. I'm gonna go a little bit lower. Okay, so I know that feels sustainable because I can feel my throat open up a little bit more. I can feel the support in my transversus, like we just talked about. Okay, so I would go, I know that's my voice, and I've done this a million times. So I got a leg up on you right now. So I would encourage you at some point to find what that sustainable sound is. And then I'm gonna go, my lowest is and again, the reason that it's really you have to be careful with your the lowest that you go, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to constrict, and you don't want to sit right on top of your chords, right? That was one of the things that I was doing a lot when I was younger, and I would lose my voice all the time, but it would be because of my own idiolect, the way that my basically that everything was placed, and also where I would speak. So I would speak, people were like, oh, you have a really deep raspy voice, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I do, because I just spoke down here, and then I got nodes and all of these things, because it was from so much misuse. So what you don't want to do when you're looking for your lowest note is you don't want to do this, right? So what's happening here is you've gotten a lot of constriction. So you're going to go, you're going to find that. And if you can't find it right now, that's something that we can talk about later. But for the range exercise, for sustainability, I want to go, so not only, so I know that I've got that highest sound and that let's say, so you can see my camera. So this is the highest sound that I have. This is the lowest sound that I have. So I have all of this room in between here to do whatever, to work with whatever dialect we're working with in terms of the musicality of it. And in terms of the placement, in terms of, we'll talk a lot more about it, but for voiceover, extreme cartoon voices, you know that you can do something here, you can do something here, you can do something here, a minuscule here, and then jump up to it. So again, that's a whole different class, but I want you to be able to feel like you can always go back to that. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna go to 20. You're at the very top, you're gonna go 1, and then you're gonna go down on 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're gonna go to 20. If you want, you can get your squats in. The only reason I do that is because it's the only time I get my squats in. So it's really, that's it. So I like to do it. So you also know that it's not only just a vocal cue, but it's also a physical cue. So you've got all the way up here to all the way down here. Okay, you ready? Here we go. We're gonna 1 to 20. 1 is the very top. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Great. So we can continue to take that one with you if you want. Definitely not mine, but it's something that I use all the time. And then we'll work on capacity really quickly. So this is also from Patsy Rodenberg. one of the things that a lot of actors have a really hard time with is transitioning from stage to film. And I know that because I was one of them. So I can 100% be like, oh, I was huge because I grew up in the theater. I gesticulate wildly anyways. So when the camera was super close up on me, I was way too loud. I was way too physical. And honestly, it didn't make in my own person, I felt like that I was that. So being on camera, I was a little bit like, oh, I'm not being authentic to who I am. And I think that was a lie that I told myself, because I'm not always walking around like this, right? There's a lot of stillness in our lives that we just can start being more aware of. When we work on transitioning from stage to screen, we really have to work on playing to the space that we're in. So when I was in Dallas, I did Shakespeare Dallas. It was an amphitheater. Often there was 1,000 people at night outside. And then when you're on camera, it's where we are right now. I am less than 2 feet away from the camera. So it's really figuring out who you're speaking to and using the space that you're in. So go ahead and put your fingers right in front of you. This is going to be really easy. So she calls them birthday candles. So all you're going to do is you're basically going to put your finger right here in front of your face. So you're just going to blow these candles out. Right? Super easy. You can feel that. So now I want you to put it out about a third. Make sure, if you're standing up, make sure your knees are unlocked, okay? So now you're gonna try to blow them out here. Here we go. And great, and when you're doing that, really think about breathing from your transverses. So you're not like, right? It's not our actor neck that we have. Really focus on, from that lower belly breathing. Now you're gonna go out about halfway. I'm gonna turn this way. Here we go. Great. Can you still feel it? Ish, kind of. You're going to go 3/4. Okay. And now put your hand all the way out as far as you can. I'm double jointed. Sorry. Here we go. All the way out. So it's a lot when you go all the way out, when you focus on going ha, 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 ha. It's basically the same amount, is that you're really focusing on going ha, 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 ha. So it's going from maybe a little bit of that crescendo from the bottom to the top to the bottom, and feeling that not only just how much support, but also in terms of volume. Great. What's next? Let's just do a few actual vocal warm-ups, and then we'll just run through a British dialect really quickly. So what I want you to do is just go ahead and gurn around a little bit more. I swear, every time that people take screenshots of me teaching you guys, just like, yeah, that looks about right.
Yeah, and we've got this recorded, so it should be great.
Oh, cool, great. And just spread it all over the place. So what we're going to do is go ahead and stay muted, but you're going to follow me. The lexical set is so it's ba 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 ba. Christian, I'm going to take this off you, okay? Great. Da 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 da. Fa 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 fa. Ga 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 ga. Ha 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 ha. Really drop your jaw. Ka 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 ka. La 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 la. Ma 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 ma. Na 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 na. Pa 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 pa. Qua 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 qua. Ra 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 ra. Sa 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 sa. Ta 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 ta. Va 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 va. Great. So now we're gonna go wee way, wee way. Yeah, 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 yeah. Z z z z z z z z z za. Great. A few tongue twisters. Here we go. She stood upon her balcony, inexplicably mimicking him hiccuping, while amicably welcoming him in. Great. The big black bug drank black blood. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. Last one. Unique New York, unique New York, you know you need unique New York. Wonderful. I'm sure everyone did it perfectly. Just as I do all the time. Don't worry. Okay, great. So now that we are in a really good place vocally, we're gonna go through. I'm gonna sit myself back down for a second, and then we're gonna go through a few key things about dialect, and then we're gonna talk about how that is similar to building a character, and that's what will wrap us up. Okay, so give me just a second. And if you need water, go ahead and get some water. Let me move this here. Let me move you here.
Should have gotten some transition music.
Oh, can anybody sing?
Next time. Yeah.
I'm sure I have some Kenny G on hand.
Perfect. Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, no,
we'll get
I'm
the
good.
licensing to it. Yeah.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go through. Actually, let me do the one that I did. Okay. So we're just gonna work on a British dialect. I coached that at Theatrical Outfit twice for Miss Bennett, Christmas at Pembrey, and then the other show that Lauren Gunderson wrote, as well as I've done it several times at City Springs Theater Company. Both wonderful theaters. If you don't know them, please look them up. So what we're going to do, we'll just talk really quickly about something that's called oral posture. So oral posture is basically where the sound is in your mouth, and it's basically the positioning of your articulators. So, like we said, with standard American, the sound is in the very middle of your mouth. I'm going to get really close. Right here. Okay. So if you think about, I'll just go back to my own idiolect really quickly. So for Western North Carolina, for me, my jaw is pretty tight. It's pretty closed, right? And my tongue is real lazy. Everything is kind of in the back of my throat, right? That back. A lot of times I would mess up. My friends will tell you that sometimes I still mess up my e and my eh. So it's so the difference between pen, pen, and the difference between pin, pin. I would interchange them a lot. So when we talk about our own idiolects, for me, it has to do a whole lot with the placement inside my mouth, which is, right here, my jaw and my tongue and where everything is. And a lot of times when people talk about Southerners being lazy, it's really because we talk real slow, right? So if you think about the difference between a Southern dialect and the Southern is real, it's here because honestly, it's just too hot to do anything, right? Especially like deep South, everything is just, it's too hot to go fast. You're sweating, right? You got that physicality that you have. Even like, it's not even just about your vocal posture, but it's also about your personal physicality, your physical physicality, not a word, but your personal physicality, right? It's a little bit more like, it's a really great look for me right now. It's this, right? Kind of legs spread, like, oh Lord, this happening, as opposed to New York, right? New York is really quick. New York is really quick, and the pace of it is much faster. And their lips are a little bit tighter here, right? And their mannerisms and their physicality in general, like it's much quicker. You got to get out of the way. They're busy. There's a zillion people. You got to go. So, and with Southern, you're just on your porch, right? So think about the difference here. So with let's just say standard Southern, with we'll do a rhotic, which means that you do R, that you pronounce your R's. Western North Carolina, right? It's a little, those R's are pretty hard. New York is here, and most of the time they also don't they don't pronounce their R's. So what's happening is that it's definitely a little bit further forward, and it's a little bit more in their teeth, right? It's right behind where they are, and their tongue it's got a lot more tension in their tongue. And then British, so British is very different. British is here. So it's right in the lips. So what happens is that you don't really need to move your lips very much. So what you want to do is you could take your pinky, or you could take a straw, right? So something very small. You put it right here, and really. So the reason that they say stiff upper lip, it's because they don't really move this. They don't move the lip. That's what it's from. Is that right here? Is that's really as much as you have to move here. If you notice, everyone loves Maggie Smith because she's wonderful. So if you notice, Maggie Smith does so much with her eyes and so much with her point of view, right? And she's very, if it's RP, which means received pronunciation, let's take it back and physically into our physical physicality. Let's take it back, right? It's all very stiff. And it's all very here, and it's all very much in the inflection of what's happening. So if I were, and Christian, I'll pick on you, if I were to say, oh, what a wonderful red shirt you're wearing. Yes, wonderful. Anyway, oh, green, finally, my favorite color. Red, not so much, but looks great on you. Right. So there's so much happening with the inflection of the dialect, and with the inflection, let me get ahead of myself. So vocal posture, what's happening is that your soft palate is lifting. There's so much more space in your mouth. So instead of it being very vertical, instead of it being very horizontal, it's very vertical. So it's as if you're thinking about a backwards megaphone. Okay, so you have like small, really big. So you have all this space in your mouth, right? So that's the reason that it sounds the way that it does, because your soft palate is lifted, and that there's so much space in your mouth, and then all of a sudden it just goes right out here, right? And stiff upper lip. So when you think about if you think about your vocal posture, then you always go a tight jaw. Your lips are quite protruded, yes, and here it's also pretty tight here, and then there's really not much else happening. And your soft palate is lifted. So what you can go ahead and do is just go ahead and do, oh, so just go back to your yawn space. Oh, and then close. Oh. And so this is super exaggerated. You're not going to walk around like this, okay? This is kind of where it lives, right? Right here. But you don't have to do too much more. And what you do is you're really working with your inflection. And a lot of times, if you're Maggie Smith, you're working with your eyes. Oh. Right? And you've got this really wonderful, stop it off, you've got this really wonderful physicality that shows that you're a bit more of the upper crust. As opposed to if you were me when I was 14, which is this, right? Just sitting, waiting around for something awesome to happen. And you see how, like, even this totally changes your voice, right? Because you're here, and then all of a sudden certain things pull back. So there's so much more to it than just trying to mimic the sounds. Okay, so we talked about oral posture a little bit, which you can just do a few sounds with. Let's go to the direction of the dialect is very forward on a wave, so it's very musical. So if you think about Mary Poppins, which is my favorite, which I've coached, Mary Poppins, it always goes up and down, and Julie Andrews and Sound of Music, and up and down and up and down, and it's so much fun. So with the rhythm, it's very glide and land and glide and land. And this is the difference between British and standard American. With British, you use pitch for emphasis. In standard American, you use volume. So for pitch, I would go, for emphasis, I would say lovely. And for lovely, right? That range. And then for standard American, I would never say lovely. I would say something weird like cool, right? Something very American, but it would be, but I would yell it. I'd be like, oh, cool, instead of like lovely, and it's, again, the physicality of it changes. Lovely. See, great job. My mother says lovely, so she's much better at. I should say it. It's much better than cool. So then let's go on to, there's another thing we talk about, inflection. So standard American, we tend to, I say that we use volume instead of pitch. We use volume and a downward inflection. So we go, oh my God, there's something I wanted to tell you, right? We really fall off the roller coaster. So, there's something I want to tell you. So a lot of times, if we're not careful, especially in acting, when we downward inflect, what that means is whatever we're trying to say is either not as important, or we're intentionally trying to hide it. So if you're dealing with some mumbles and you're like, hey, it's really nice to see you. What is that like in terms of objective or point of view? To you, that you're probably getting, it's not nice to see me. If I'm like, oh, hey, Heidi, it's really nice to see you. Thanks for coming. So rude, right? So you get so much with inflection. And with standard and with British, again, we're working off standard right now. It goes up. So it goes, oh, it's lovely to see you. You, lovely to see you, right? It goes up all the way instead of down. So let's work with for consonants in British, it's a non-rhotic dialect. So what that means is that they don't pronounce their R's. I'm speaking so quickly. So they don't pronounce their R's. So let's say, where is my la 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 R would be instead of cure, it would be cure. Oh, instead of bear, it'd be bear. So a lot of times in scripts, what I would do is I go through and I just cut out every R that I see. Yeah, cut it out. Especially when you're working with dialects, you want to learn what the signature sounds are. So the signature sounds being how that dialect differs from what you are used to doing. And a lot of times that's you working with a dialect coach, or if there's a few online that you like and trust, learning what those signature sounds are. With another one with British would be for us is it's ask. It's that ah sound, or bath, and it would be ah. So it would be ask and bath, which is the same for us as father, father. But in British, father, father. Yeah. So there's several of those. British has a lot of. You really want to focus on the consonants. They are very clear on their consonants. So the way that we do a medial T, like little, right? We would say, oh, she's very little. That sounds much more like a D than it does a T. British they focus very much on the T. So it would be little and bitter and butter, right? So you want to focus very clearly on the P and the T and the K. Yes. And so cottage, ribbons. We would say ribbons, 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 right? There's a little bit more of an oomph towards that consonant. A lot of the times with the WH, we would say every once in a while, right? Every once in a while. Again, a lot of this is very RP, so I don't want to get it mixed up with estuary or a little bit modern day. Basically, what's happening right now, that the UK has the exact same regionalisms that we do, right? So, but if we're talking about proper standard American, which doesn't really exist, but that's fine. Skinner says it does, so yes, ma'am. But if we're talking about that, then the same with standard British, right? It would be the T's and the K's and the P's. So one of my favorite things about when we did Miss Bennett by Lauren Gunderson at Theatrical Outfit is they shortened the E's to an I. So instead of Mary, like we say, it would be Mary, and it's almost a little bit more it's almost a little bit nasal, Mary, and Mr. Bingley. So it's not Mr. Bingley, like we would say, yeah, Mr. Bingley. It's Bingley. So there's this really wonderful, like haughty personification to it. So when we talk about, I'm just gonna, because I'm running out of time, transition into all of these things about dialects, why it's so important to, I think, to tie that in to building a character is there's so many elements of learning a dialect. It's about the oral posture, right? It's about the signature sounds, but it's also about where the person grew up. It's also about why is the regionalism what it is. It's about the topography of the environment. So let's go back to the South. I can talk all day about the South. I've coached Southern accents for years and years and years. Because let's say we'll go back to the heat. We'll go back to the temperature. Because it's so hot, a lot of places, right? And even the deep South, What happens is that you run out of breath. If it's Louisiana, which is where I lived for a little bit, you go outside and Lord, it's so hot, right? And it just almost kind of takes your breath away. So when you're talking, a lot of times you're going slow. You're taking in as much as you can, but like it also just it feels hot. It feels like you can't get enough breath in. The difference with Russian, where it's very cold, right? Um, yeah, let me find it. It's Russian. I say it's Russian. So Russian is here, and Russian has a little bit of a tongue twist to it, but Russian is also a whole lot. It's very cold, right? So Russian is right here, and you think about the environment of the Russian, and that's one of the reasons that look, see there, it almost sounds like they're mad, right, all of the time, but it's because honestly it's the way that their vocal posture is, right? They don't really open their mouth, and it's almost like the sides of their mouth go down. So it's here, and it's almost a little bit like as if you were trying to flare your nostrils, like not like if you're doing this. Great, another screen grab if anybody wants to get it. Awesome. If you do this, so you're not going to stick to it, but if you were almost moving that lip up a little bit, right? It's here. It's too close, and you have it, and they're very stiff because of how cold it is. But if it's Western North Carolina, if it's me, here it is, right? If it's Louisiana, it's this action. But so it's not just physical, but it's also vocal. So you think about where you're from. If you think about RP, you think about the rolling hills. The same with Irish, right? Irish kind of goes all over the place, and depending on if it's Northern Irish, okay, bye Pam, thank you. If it's Northern Irish, or if it's Southern Irish, right? You think it's again, those are totally different. So you think about the topography of it. So that's one of the ways that you can build it with building a character. So you have to think about, who are you talking to? Where are they from? What is the socioeconomic background? Like if you grew up in a trailer in, backwoods Louisiana, the way that you speak to people would probably be very different if you grew up in a really ritzy neighborhood in Vermont, or if you grew up in the Bronx, or. There's so many of those things that tie in together. So in the actual class, we'll be talking about Udahagen steps. So 6 steps to build a character, and I will tie those into the elements of building a dialect. And that is the fastest I've spoken in a very long time. Yeah, I think that's good, Christian. I think that unless I would love to open the floor. I haven't looked at any of these chats. If people have questions really about any of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll open the floor to questions if you guys want to type your questions into the group chat, but let's all do a nice silent round of applause for Cara there.
Thank you. Hi, Heidi. I was able to look at you the whole time, so thank you.
But yeah, phenomenal. And guys, there are still spots available in Cara's class. So if you're looking to get a more in-depth exploration of dialect and applying that to character, as well as that Udahagen 6-step program, definitely sign up for that. I believe it starts in 2 weeks, I think is when I'm going to... 21st. Oh yeah. So just over a week. So sign up for that now. It is on our site. It is superherotrainingcenter.com/classes. And I will type that in the chat as well. But yeah, guys, phenomenal. That was, the exercises alone were so much more than I think I've done in the last 3 months. Just doing warm-ups. So thank you for that, Cara.
Yeah. And I honestly, just doing that, I'm such an advocate for warm-ups. with actors, because you would never, just like musicians, just like with athletes, you would never walk onto the court and be like, great, I'm ready to play the biggest game of my life. Or, I'm ready to play a symphony. You would never not touch your instrument. Or let's say basketball, you'd never not touch the ball at all that day before you go on the court to play the biggest game of your life. So it's the same way with acting, with auditioning, with callbacks, with going to classes. You really want to, this is your instrument. It's not just your voice, it's your whole body. It's really being aware of your breath and how that works and how you can use it to your advantage. When I was younger, I think, I don't know if we touched on this a little bit, but I was just full of bad habits and misuse, and I would lose my voice constantly. And I loved to sing, and I would sing at the top of my lungs, and the next day I didn't have a voice, and I just had no idea why. And it's so sad, especially when you're short and you feel like that's all you have is this booming voice, which is what I've had for most of my life. So, it really does affect so much of your life that you don't really think of. So make sure that you're drinking a lot of water, really focus on your vocal health, and, make sure that you stick to your warm-ups before, and it kind of gets you excited. If there are some times when we get auditions that we're like, and maybe guys aren't that way, but for a lot of times for the females, like, it's a lot more work for us, because it's about an hour and a half more work for us, because we have to get ready. So I can't be like, okay, I've got it, I'm ready to do it. Like, cool, now I have to take a shower and put on way more makeup, or I have to do my hair, or I have to do something. Like, if that's the thing, ladies, take that time while you're getting ready, which is one of the things that I do, to also do a lot of physical and vocal warm-ups while you're up, and you can feel it in your body. It kind of gets you pumped up and ready and a little bit more excited than to be like, line, 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 which hopefully we don't want to feel like in general, but we're human and that happens. So.
Yeah. Cara, so we have a question in the chat. Heidi
Yeah,
wants to
great.
know, do you do musical theater as well?
In terms of what?
Oh, great question.
What do you
Heidi.
mean? Like singing, Heidi, or? Okay.
Yes.
I love to sing. I can help you a little bit, but I am not the musical. Will you unmute yourself? What's your
Yeah,
question?
hold on, I'll unmute her here.
No. I was just curious about you. I don't sing. I'm a terrible singer.
I love to sing. And I used to do musical theater, and no, I don't anymore. But I think that when I was younger, I didn't think that I had the longevity for it, because I was full of bad habits and misuse. I wonder now if that has changed. But I've transitioned so much into doing dialect work that I've spent a lot of my time as an actor, and I do a lot more film and television, do a lot more on camera right now than I do theater. And then also with dialects, I do coach a lot of musical theater. I do coach dialects for that, and I can help a lot with vocal support and where that's coming from. But if it's certain, like, how do I get to that note? I'm like, no, I'll just keep trying.
Very good.
Cara, I have a question. When you're approaching an audition, so if you get an audition that says, we want this type of accent, obviously you'll work that accent into your audition tape. But if you get something that is, say, just no description whatsoever, it's a blank slate, what do you do to prepare that character going in? Do you go in with a dialect that you come with, or do you try to do a standard English or standard American?
Never, ever, ever do a dialect unless somebody asks for it. Always assume that it is standard American unless they say, Southern accents wanted or Southern accents okay if they're natural. Otherwise, do standard American. If it is, let's say, if it's a period piece, you're always going to know. There is never going to be a time that if an accent is requested or required that you don't know that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
And
casting or the whoever, they will always say, and especially for actors, if it's film or television, and your agents will always, that needs to be checked off on your 800 casting networks, Actors Access. People need to know that you can do those dialects, because that's going to filter through, and they're going to be like, oh, well, we can send Cara out for this because she can learn the dialect really quickly, or she already knows that, or whatever. But never, if you're just like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a German dialect for this. Cool. Don't send it in. Totally do it. Work on it. Don't send it in. Unless they specifically asked for a German dialect.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Cara, I know you had to run. So if anybody else has any questions, I'm going to do a 30-second call while I wrap up. Just saying thank you to everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to send the video out to everyone in their email. And again, sign up for those classes. We have another phenomenal webinar coming up next weekend with Marcio Ballas, who is a phenomenally trained clown. He's from the Jacques Lecoq training program in Paris, which they only graduate like 15 people a year,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Sacha Baron Cohen is from that program. There's just so many amazing people. So yeah, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Cara, and have a wonderful week.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.